welcome to the $1 Billion Podcast, a weekly show about the entrepreneurial journey and making it big in any industry. We're your hosts, Joe White and Kane Daniel. Welcome to today's episode of the $1 Billion Podcast. We're excited to introduce a remarkable guest, Sabeena Bubber, whom I've had the pleasure of knowing for, how long has it been now, Sabeena?
Like 24, 25 years.
Time flies. You know what they say, time flies when you're having fun, and I can tell you've been having a good time in this industry. I love the industry, and time really does fly by in it.
It really does. It really does.
So with over 30 years of experience in the mortgage and finance industry, Sabeena has been a driving force at Ziva Mortgage since 2013. Her expertise and dedication earned her a spot among the top 75 brokers in Canada, and she's a Hall of Fame recipient, as recognized by CMP Magazine, and amongst many other notable recognitions. But beyond accolades, Sabeena is passionate about helping her clients achieve financial health. So let's get started. Sabeena, welcome.
Thank you, Joe. It's great to be here. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah, it's great. It seems like it's been such a long time, and time does fly. It's wonderful to see you. You look fantastic.
Thank you. I feel great.
Good.
You guys both aged yourself a little bit by saying 25 years ago. But Sabeena, for those that can see you, you look like you shouldn't have met Joe 25 years ago. And
Thank you. No, I started when I was 12. Yeah.
Yeah. I was rolling through the hospital, the maternity ward, and waved at her, and
there's a little person going, "Do you want a mortgage?"
So yeah, maybe we should get started. One of the things that I've noticed is that you're a founder of www.divorce.mortgage, and it looks like a great site. The name. Why don't you just tell us a bit about it?
The name says it all.
It does. I was going to say, I don't know if it's a great name or it's a great thing or I don't know. Tell us.
You know what? It's a great resource, and that was what it was intended to be. So when I got divorced, I can't believe how much I learned through the divorce process. When we're mortgage brokers and we think we know a lot when it comes to underwriting mortgages, when people are going through separation, divorce, it's not just about child and spousal support. There's so many things we need to know, as well as process options, options for family counselors, parenting coordinators, all that stuff. So I learned a lot through the process. And I actually found myself after my divorce feeling like I'd spent way too much money and it could have been resolved for way less. And feeling like the process options aren't necessarily known to people. And those options actually, in the end, really helped me a lot. And I ended up aligning with a number of not only my divorce lawyer, but also my ex's divorce lawyer, who started sending me some business, and various other lawyers through the process. And I decided to create the site to help women and men kind of do some investigation before they go on to, Facebook communities and say, how do I do this? And get 10 pieces of advice. So I have interviews with lawyers, I have interviews with counselors, interviews with realtors, and financial advisors, helping people to understand. And then we also created like a group called the Divorce Circle where we give seminars and stuff like that. And it's helped. I've had a lot of feedback that it's helped a lot of women, a lot, especially when it comes to financial literacy. It really depends on who is the financial driver in the relationship. So whether it's the man or the woman, somebody's left not knowing everything about the household finances and where to go next. So that can really impact the divorce process. So it just basically it helps.
Yeah, that's amazing. It seems like a lot of people that go through that process, whether they think that it's going to be an easy or difficult process, end up getting caught up in emotion.
Yeah.
And it seems, because I've been through the process myself, and I think the emotion is what can really derail a good decision. So having somebody to give advice and like a place where you can get this type of information dispassionately, I guess you would say, not somebody whispering in your ear, you go for everything or just throw your hands up and give up. I was looking at the site and it looks like it's a great resource.
Yeah, it's trying to help people to avoid litigation, avoid heavy court processes, that kind of thing. Because at the end of the day, the more you spend on lawyers, the less you're getting. And the bigger your assets, the more the lawyers see that they can drag it out for a little longer. So, it's a question of how much you can afford to pay. And well, the first thing they see is your list of assets. So, and I'm not saying that lawyers are aligned in that way. I'm just saying that when, at the end of the day, the law is the law. So find a process that works, try not to argue, and really, really focus on what's in the best interest of the kids through the process, because that's ultimately what's going to win, is what is in the best interest of the kids.
Absolutely. So did the thought of doing this stem from thinking about how you could grow your business, or was it more a philanthropic concept that has by happenstance growing your business as well?
It was purely philanthropic. It was just to help the people in my community and to get the information out there. And during the process, it did end up growing my business. I do get a number of referrals for divorcing clients from lawyers, and it's helped a lot. Yes, and every situation is unique too. So, what is the first thing when you're getting separated and you're about to, you have to part ways? The biggest issue we have is housing. So where am I going to live? What am I going to do? How am I going to afford this? Do we nest? Do we, rent apartments, buy apartments? How do we deal with that? So it's kind of, I guess, my way of saying the first point of contact should be your mortgage broker. And once you have that contact with your mortgage broker, that process can take years before the mortgage broker is actually doing anything. So from a mortgage broker standpoint, it can be a painful piece of work because it's taking so long from beginning to end. So it's really but at the end of the day, it's worth it because you're supporting that person. And because I've been through that process, I love that part of my work. I have one person that I recently helped that I worked with for 4 years. And it was complicated and there was a business involved. And having had a business involved in my divorce, I was able to support him through numerous decisions when it came to how to structure the separation agreement and still qualify for a mortgage.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And we found that with others who have found a passion or a cause. And that cause, because it's so genuine, it will undoubtedly attract clients to you. But it's wonderful to see that genuine, passionate take on what you're doing, and it's so helpful. It's just a fantastic story.
Thank you.
Actually, just Sabeena, I'm wondering, you mentioned that you were already a mortgage broker, a mortgage agent when you were getting divorced, and then you realized there was things that maybe you should have known or wish you would have known. What are maybe a couple things that, because it's interesting as a mortgage broker that you said still you would have liked that information. So what is it like? What was maybe a couple things that are for those listeners that, for example, are just coming into maybe they're going to be self-employed? Like, what do you think that they should
or thinking
be
of
knowing?
Getting a divorce?
Yeah, or it's good to know, right? You don't want to know after
coming in or going out.
I mean, when you're self-employed, I was in my marriage from the time I was very, very little. So speaking of young, I think I was 22 when I got married. So in terms of protecting my business within my marriage was not possible. It was quite simple. We had been together for 22 years and it was an even split. There was nothing really to dispute about, but there were disputes over the value of my business. Given that if I were to drop dead tomorrow, would my business have any value? Would there be, it can't be sold necessarily because my business is a relationship business. So there was a lot of discussion around that. And whereas when you look at business valuations, they look at what is the they look at the financial statements and don't necessarily look at whether it's just a relationship business. So there was that aspect of it. I want to say the process. So we started in a collaborative process and then moved to a litigious type environment, not realizing that mediation was an option as well. And we did ultimately settle our divorce after 3 painful years, which 3 painful years can cost a bit. And then we ended up back in mediation, I don't know how much longer, 2 years later. And the mediation process was swift, easy, and way cheaper. So there was a lot less to discuss, but at least it got settled. And then, well, we haven't spoken to each other since.
So a happy outcome all the way around.
Yeah. I hope that changes at some point, but yeah.
That's nice. That's nice. So when it comes to building wealth, because I want to switch gears a little bit, because you are passionate about helping people achieve financial health and build some wealth. So what do you tell us a bit about that?
I think, we get so caught up in our day to day that we forget that we need to plan for the future. And one of the things that I can say that worked really well in my marriage is we were very, very proactive in terms of putting money aside. But in those days, real estate wasn't expensive, life wasn't as expensive, and that kind of thing. So that's something that I do spend time talking to my clients about when they're like, how should I manage my money? It's like, well, how much are you putting away? Like you don't want to be mortgage poor. You need to save for the future. Although there is the reverse mortgage option, not everybody wants to do that. That's not a retirement plan when you have 30 years to plan for retirement. So planning for retirement and creating wealth is an important piece of what I try to do. And it's not just wealth through real estate. It's also wealth through investments, also insurance policies if you're incorporated, doing insured retirement plans or whole life policies as an individual. There's different ways to access wealth.
And really important. It's something a lot of people don't think about, right? We're so in the here and the now, and planning. I mean, when a lot of people think about it, talking to a mortgage broker isn't necessarily about financial planning, but I think your point is it needs to be. People need
something that I worked for one of the big banks at one point in my career, and when I was there, one thing I noticed is that, their client retention strategies are basically build a fence around the client. So they want the client to have 3 products. But I found that the advisors there were selling bank products and they were required to meet their shareholder requirements and that kind of thing. So they're not making as much money on their investments as, say, somebody who's working with a really good independent advisor. And I say really good because there's a range, right? Just like any industry, realtors, brokers, investment advisors, insurance agents, there's a rule of who is there in it for the money and who's in it there for the value of helping your clients, right? So going back to that, I think that with working at the bank, one of the reasons I left was because I was being asked to sell products that I was not aligned with being in the best interest of my clients. So I didn't feel like it was aligned with my values. So that's when I decided to become a mortgage broker, when I could truly help people with what I believe to be the best solution for them. And sometimes that's not dealing with the bank. And so we did that. And so I work with financial advisors who help my clients. I have an amazing financial advisor who helped me, especially after my divorce. I went through a period where I couldn't do anything during my divorce. I felt paralyzed and I'm like, but I've got this big picture I'm trying to achieve. And now that whole picture has changed. And he's like, Sabeena, just relax. We'll take care of this once you're settled and we'll sort it out. And when I settled my divorce, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to work until I'm 75. I'm never going to be able to handle all this, everything like that. And then the tables turned. And some of that was, I don't know how to explain it, but the tables turned and it all came together. And I think it was only a couple years ago that we sat, maybe, I think it was pre 2021, we sat down, and so that was 4 or 5 years after my divorce. And we sat down, we celebrated a milestone. I thought it was going to be 60 before I achieved. And it was really just consistency, focus and consistency. This is what I want to achieve. Not taking my eye off that focus and consistently focusing on that.
And Sabeena, has that been something that we talked sort of just before the offline? We were talking. You worked with Joe before you went to the bank. Right before you went to the bank, was that a difficult transition? I mean, when you left the bank to go into brokering, I know you mentioned one of the reasons was because you wanted better service or more products for your clients. Was there any, maybe for those that are at the bank now and having the same sort of issue that you were having, what do you think they can expect, and maybe what challenges did you have, and how did you address those?
I think the hardest part for me was just learning the products. When I left, I was running I had a successful referral base at the bank I was at as a mortgage specialist. And when I left, I was basically, they didn't say very nice things to me. They're like, "You'll never make it as a broker." And I'm like, "Just wait, just watch me." They're like, "But we have our pension." And I'm like, "It's okay. I'll create my own." So I did all the things they said I couldn't do. I did. And I did less business the first few years, but I made more money. So at the end of the day, it worked out. And I aligned my practice with my values. And that was the most important thing. I was selling mortgage products, insurance products, everything that worked for my clients and things that would be effective for them. And I continue to live by that. Is that if it's something that I'm using, then I'll recommend it. If it's not something that I can't stand behind, then I wouldn't.
Fantastic. And what did you find, like when you first made that move? It must have been kind of daunting at the beginning. And maybe you were second guessing yourself at a point or so. What kept you going?
Discipline. Lots of discipline. So I grew up in a disciplined environment when it came to early in my career, right after university, I had this job and they taught me the power of discipline. And so it was, and this is how I run my day too. It's really about consistency and focusing on what I want the end goal to be. So when I'm speaking to mortgage brokers, for example, if that's who my audience is today, then it would be consistency in my day-to-day life. So not running all over the place, focusing on where I'm getting my business from that day. And that is where I start the day. What does my day look like? And who do I need to call? And if I don't have anything to do, who do I need to call? So, and it's, and a few years ago, I was working with a business coach and I refined it even more in terms of time blocking, in terms of, when I'm sourcing leads, when I'm checking my email, when I'm just doing the stuff on deck I need to do, like my administration, reconciling my payroll, various other things. Those are the things that kind of get pushed to the end. And consistency. So not letting those things, this goes back to the phrase of eat the frog. So do the thing you don't want to do first. And sometimes that's picking up the phone. Sometimes that's making those emails to those, clients, but it's getting it done. And now, focusing on how much do you want to do this week. So
have you ever loved being on the phone with or cold calling or even warm calling?
I don't mind it at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. For those who do mind it and it might be intimidating, do you have maybe any tips that could help them?
Repetition.
Okay.
The more you do it, the easier it gets.
It's like facing your fear, overcoming
Absolutely.
that, and it gets easier, right?
Absolutely. And also your mindset and your personality is everything. So if you're when I go into an engagement with somebody, I feel I need to feel heart-centered, if that makes any sense. So I'm grateful that I get to do this every day. I'm grateful that I get to work with people that I like, and people that are grateful to work with me. And I've had a lot of I'm hearing a lot of chatter in the industry where people are like, our clients aren't grateful, they're price focused, they're this, they're that. And so I have been spending every day not focusing on that, but focusing on what I really want out of my business is people who are grateful to work with me. And so I'm finding that my week is showing up with people that are grateful to work with me. And even where like 2 years ago, I couldn't get my clients to book their annual reviews with me, now I'm getting annual review bookings every day. And people are like, well, I don't really have anything to talk to you about, but I just wanted to see how you are. It's like, oh, that's great. And so then we have a conversation. And the next thing I'm like, well, if you're thinking about this, this, and this, I can find you a referral for your roof. I can find you a referral for this. And if you're thinking about spending money on this, this might be a good way to do it rather than refinancing the mortgage right now because it doesn't make sense. And so those little things they just make me feel good. Even if it's not transactional, it's just relationship wise. And so if you don't call intending to close a sale, you just call to see how people are, you will get the same thing back and you just focus on that.
Yeah, Joe, it's so nice. We've talked to a lot of brokers in the industry and in other industries as well. And this is, I think what we've learned more than anything is when we ask that type of question, the answer is almost never has anything to do with technical skills or soft skills. And it really comes down to, as you mentioned, discipline, showing up, being consistent, and all of those things. Anyone can have that if they choose to. So it's not necessarily that, when you say cold calling, that you right away have to have all the best scripts and the best set of skills to be able to maximize it. It's just the will to get out there and do it and keep doing it and keep showing up. So it's really, really amazing to hear. Was there anything else, Sabeena, that when you came into the broker side from the bank, anything else that surprised you or anything else you didn't expect? Or was it pretty much what you thought it was going to be? It sounds like you're a planner.
The amount of drinking that goes on in the industry, or should maybe rephrase that and say the amount of golf that goes. We may end up having to cut that or not.
How much we're appreciated. I think the thing that would surprise me was the diversity of what's available. When I met Joe, we were doing subprime lending. So I couldn't believe how easy it was to do a CMHC insured deal, but it took me a long time to figure out how to do that. I'm like, what's this CMHC? And what, these interest rates, 4.79? We were doing mortgages at like 17% or something like that. And so I was like, this is amazing. But yeah, I think just the diversity of products that are available and solutions that we can provide. And understanding how to present a solution to a client in a way that's aligned with what their goals and their values are. And sometimes they don't even know what their goals and needs are. So I think it's being able to present that. So all the options that are available in the industry, sometimes it's overwhelming how many options there are. It's like, where do I start? Like there's probably 5 lenders that'll do this. And the relationships. Being at the bank, I found that everybody was out for one another. They weren't there to support you. They were there to, it was a dog eat dog world. Whereas in the mortgage industry, I found that there's a lot more support. And you won't see it in a lot of industries, how much we support each other and how much we try to help each other out, doing things like this where we're educating each other and, oh, I had this. And those Facebook sites like I Love Mortgage Brokering and Women in the Mortgage Industry, all those things are there for us to provide support to one another. So when we go to conferences, we're actually happy to see each other. And if something happens, like not that it ever happens, I find that it rarely happens that I come across a file where I've got another broker working on it, but that we're not afraid to pick up the phone and say, hey, what are we going to do about this?
Yeah. And that's, again, we talk a lot about this as well, about the community and the industry. And I think it's often not understood. You're right. Before people come in, that it's very, very supportive. I think brokers, maybe one of the misconceptions is they are seen as hard salesmen and women, that they, it's very competitive. And you're so right that it's actually, it doesn't feel like that when you go to events or when you talk to other brokers and agents. It's very friendly, a very wonderful community of people that want to help, that want to give back. So absolutely agree with that.
For sure. And when we're dealing with our lenders, we know who we're dealing with at our lenders. We know our underwriters, we know our RVPs, our BDMs, and we have good relationships with them. And if you don't have a good relationship with them, look in the mirror before you blame the other person. And that's just an observation, because our lenders work really hard to hire people that are qualified individuals to do their jobs. And I see that. I want to make this comment about how our personality is our personal reality. So how we act, think, feel, behave, that is what we put in front of us. So if we behave in a certain way, that's what we're going to see. So that's what we're projecting. So we see other people not to be supportive of us, but really it's things we have to change within ourselves to become aligned with what we want to have in the world. So that might mean changing our own personality in a way to get the results that we want.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When you look back at some of the highs and lows in your career, what does anything leap out at you as being memorable, either as a challenge that you had to overcome, or maybe it's just something that was just a wonderful experience, like a fantastic client that was memorable?
I think for me, I'm going to go to the challenging side.
Mm-hmm.
The challenging side for me would have been like 2012, 2013. I had my own brokerage, and I had a few brokers within it. I did really good volume always on my own, but I found that our industry was shifting. And getting on a lender list meant that you had to provide a minimum amount of volume before you could get good rates and good turnaround, and even get on their list to submit clients to them. So then I felt like I wasn't really a broker anymore because I didn't have access to everybody. And I was also carrying the overhead of all the compliance, the payroll, the all that stuff that has to be done as a business owner, and looking after brokers and doing other things. So I found that because I was a small brokerage, even though I myself had a good reputation, that was not enough. And so I had to make the difficult decision about what I was going to do. And that's when I approached some colleagues / friends that also had their own brokerages, and that's how Ziva Mortgage was formed. And we combined the four brokerages together to create Ziva, and more efficiencies and more alignment. So have you heard the saying that you are the sum of the six people or 5 people you spend the most time with? And so to say that my game got completely elevated after that moment is an understatement. So I was a broker. I was producing maybe $45 to $50 million a year in volume at that point. And once I aligned myself on a consistent basis with people that I wanted to be like, who were doing more than me and who were doing so using the same value system as I was, that I learned, and I wanted to elevate myself. So that's when, like they set up this underwriting center and whatever. So I was giving more, I had just more time to focus on growing my business. So I was able to finally break that 50 million ceiling that I couldn't break anymore. And then all of a sudden I was doing 60, then it was 70, then it was 75, and it just kept going up. So I find that if that tough point led to a point where I had to sit down and really dig deep and say, what is important to me? I had to give up my pride of owning my own brokerage and decide what was the most important thing. And so I decided I didn't want to be an owner anymore, and that the most important thing to me was my clients and brokering, because I felt that brought me the most, that was my why. That was the thing that brought me the most reward. And so in the merger, I was like, I don't want to be an owner. I want to be a broker. That's what I want. And then I basically, like every day, I'm FaceTiming my best friend, who's also at Ziva, also an owner at Ziva. And we are constantly back and forth. And sometimes it's just sitting on FaceTime and working, and just her mere presence motivates me to work harder, if that makes any sense. Because I know I'm always like, we have access to each other's pipelines. So we know we're always looking at that top line. And I'm like, one of these days I'm going to beat you.
That's a
But
healthy
it's always like that, because she's always ahead of me. but always elevating myself to get there. And
Sabeena, I think it's a really important thing that you said, surrounding yourself with people, maybe who you want to emulate, and you talked about it elevating you. I think for those people that have maybe heard that and are not sure maybe how that translates or what that means, is there anything you can point to that say, this is something that actually changed for me within a year of, doing that transition like you mentioned?
well, my volume changed for sure. And definitely the level of support that I felt. And it's not an environment where I feel like my complaints are supportive. It's more like, well, instead of complaining, what do you want instead? So always focusing on what I want instead of the negative. So it's like, oh, this happened to me. This happened to me. This client, this bank undercut me. This happened. It's like, what do I want instead of that? So it really helped me to change my mindset, and focus on the things that I want instead of the things that I don't want. And so if you're in an environment where you're complaining and everybody's like, yeah, and this happened to me, and if your people around you are being like, yeah, I get it, they're trying to be supportive, but then they're really just, you're all in the same little, not finding ways to elevate yourself. So that's the biggest thing for me, is being surrounded by people who want to help each other, to lift each other up. So when something doesn't go your way, that find a way to reframe it. What did I learn from this? What do I need to do differently next time? Because it's not like everything always goes my way. That's not true. We all have challenging situations and sometimes where we don't win, but it's how did you handle it and what would you do differently next time?
So it's just as important how you deal with the negative or a loss as it is how you enjoy the victory.
I don't let myself get stressed out as much as I used to.
That's good. Yeah, that's probably one of the most important lessons I think that anybody can take away is stress is a killer, right? I mean, it literally is.
Literally. So I don't know if you know or not, but I had breast cancer. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in February 2022. And at the time of diagnosis, I was like, I had to have a talk with myself. It was the stress of my divorce, the stress of what happened leading up to my divorce, my financial stress, my business stress, you name it, every stress, the stress of being a single parent, every stress you can think of. So your body is not conditioned to be in a constant state of stress, and it affects your immune system. And when your immune system breaks down, then disease comes in. So I'm the poster child for that. I let that happen. So did I have to change my lifestyle after that? Yes. I took a bit of a break from work while I was sick. And while I was sick, I was able to figure out exactly how I wanted to live my life. So I enjoy my business now in a way different way than I did before. And my first start of the day, when I start the day, is stress management is the way I start my day. So, yeah.
And what does that look like for you? Yeah. What is the stress management? Just so someone, can, for those that are stressed, right?
I'm a huge Joe Dispenza fan. I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza, but I'm a massive fan of his. He wrote the book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. So when I talk about your personality as your personal reality, that's his phrase. And I literally had to break the habit of being myself in order to become the person that I wanted to be. And that's somebody who's healthy, who's still successful, who's living her best life, all that stuff. So I travel more, I live a healthy life, and I'm still killing it at my business. So, and that involves, like, when I get up in the morning, I meditate when I start my day. And that's not meditate laying in bed. That's meditating sitting up, I've got a number of meditations from Dr. Joe that I do. And then I get up and I head to the gym. So I work at home, and that cycle of being at home and staying at home for a long period of time is not great. So that's why, even though I have a gym in the basement, I do head to the gym just so I can get out and get some fresh air and see some humans face to face. And then I start. So I probably wake up at between 5 and 5:30, and I don't start working until 9 o'clock. So I've got that time. That is just me time. And then end of the day, it's making sure that appointment on my schedule is to make dinner and sit down with my daughter. Spend
that's
family.
amazing. A lot of people ask or say that they just don't have the time to devote to personal development or that stress management. But it really does boil down to how much do you value that. You go to bed a little bit earlier, wake up a little bit earlier, and give yourself that time.
And like one cycle of like 30 minutes of meditation is the equivalent of one sleep cycle. So because as long as if you're hitting that meditation, and I'm not talking about Headspace, I'm talking about real meditation, because Headspace doesn't quite hit it the same way. And I used to meditate before, but I'm definitely doing a different kind of meditation than I used to before. But I hit those deeper levels where it's kind of, you're hitting that sweet spot before you fall asleep. But when you're sort of awake and sort of asleep, that's kind of that sweet spot. So that time before you sleep is just it's the hitting the brain waves differently. Anyways, that's a whole education that I don't have time to get into today, but that's a whole other podcast. Maybe one day. That's what I'm doing in my spare time. Change your mind, change your results.
Amazing. It definitely an outlook on helping others. It seems to me that's probably one of the biggest reasons that you've been so successful, is that you have that selfless desire to help other people, and that comes across in speaking with you and hearing others speak about you as well.
Thank you. I'm going to throw in a plug. Do you know about Brokers Who Care?
Yes. Yeah. You know what? Absolutely plug it. Yeah.
So Brokers Who Care, in 2016, my girlfriend's daughter was killed tragically in an accident with her dad. And my girlfriend was divorced from her child's father, and also self-employed. And the stress of losing her daughter was devastating. So I started this GoFundMe page. And as we do when somebody needs help to cover costs and that kind of thing, she needs to pay her rent. She needs to cover the funeral expenses for her 6-year-old daughter, her only child, all that stuff. And $7,000 came from the mortgage community, people who didn't know her, people in Toronto. And I was like, wow, this is pretty impactful that people who don't even know this person are donating to her. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to do something out of this. So again, taking a bad situation and making it into something good, we started Brokers Who Care. So Brokers Who Care is, we donate $100 a month every quarter. Sorry, not $100 a month, $100 every 3 months. So that's $400 a year. And we have nominations. You can nominate a family in need, or if you have a friend in need. We recently had a mortgage broker in the industry whose ex-husband tried to kill her. And then he ended up taking his own life. And as a result, and then his family believes that she's the reason he's gone now. So she has to divorce the estate instead of divorcing him, because her divorce wasn't final. So she's, of course, self-employed, raising kids, recovering from injuries. Her kids need therapy, all that kind of stuff. So Brokers Who Care nominated her, and she received $10,000 to help her with her costs and that kind of thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so that's within our own family. We've helped lots of, people that we know on the peripheral. So whether it's our clients, I definitely send something out to my clients to say I'm part of Brokers Who Care. You can, if you know somebody in your community that needs help, please let me know and I'll nominate them. And so it's a good way. It's a good way to communicate with your database without necessarily, the call to action is, let me help the people that you know that need help.
That really is an amazing cause. That sounds like something that definitely we'd love to maybe publish some more information about. So it's really, really cool.
That would be appreciated. Yeah, we're I didn't look this morning, but I think we're over 450,000 that we've given away since inception, and we're at 200 plus members.
Obviously, as Joe mentioned, it sounds like you genuinely care. Is that something that you've always had?
Have you always cared?
Well, the ability to be empathetic and to be genuine about it, right? I think it's, not everyone has that. Naturally, some people have to learn it over time, and some people maybe never learn it. Is that something that for you, it's just always been natural, and that you just kind of are born with that?
I guess so. I never really I don't even really consciously think about it. I just do it, if that makes sense.
That is a good point, though. Not everybody is equally as empathetic as others.
I'm working with my own framework here. And yeah, like going to the corporate coaching program that I'm working on, it's like, it's really just, if I've had these experiences, so have other people.
Mhm.
So, and it's the same thing when I started in my business. I had no support, no guidance, no mentors, because back then, 25 years ago, when we started, there weren't very many mortgage brokers, and it was kind of a cutthroat environment, and it was not the most supportive. So being here in today's environment, flash forward 25 years, and people are helping each other and supporting each other, I want to be one of those people, because I could have probably come a lot further, a lot faster, if I'd had the support and mentorship and guidance that I didn't have when I was younger.
And what do you get out of that? Like, it's just a good feeling of giving back?
I could sleep at night. I don't really, I don't know. I just feel like it's something, I feel like it's like my duty, because doing these things and helping other people, I'm also a role model to two young girls that are watching what I do and seeing what I create in my life. And if I show up as a caring, good person, hopefully someday they will do the same thing. So in the days where Brokers Who Care has been, it's not that easy. It's been a struggle, sometimes getting nominations, sometimes getting votes. It's definitely been a struggle at times where I'm like, maybe it's run its life. It's time to give it up. It's my kids that are telling me, you can't, you've done too much good. You have to keep going, Mom. You've got to find a new way. And so it's probably that relationship with my daughters that keeps me going to keep doing good in the world. Because in some way, even the whether it's all the self-development that I do and that kind of thing, if some of that can just rub off on them just a little bit, at ages 18 and 20, 21, to have that impact to them could be significant in their lives.
Yeah, I want to learn more about Brokers Who Care. So maybe that's something to on a serious note. Like, really, I have a daughter going on 11, and everything is very materialistic and fast paced and everything, and trying to look for ways to ground them, like from what you've done. So maybe I'll reach out and see if there's a way that I don't know if kids get involved in this work.
Yeah, it's all digital. So we do everything. We have one person who runs all the stuff on the back end so that we can have membership across the country. We haven't ever thrown an event because 100% of the money that we receive gets donated back out. So we don't have a budget by any means. So yeah,
it's amazing all the way around, and the lessons that you're passing along are definitely invaluable.
Going back to that concept of spending time with the people you most want to be like, I want to be that person that I want my kids to be. So if I have high expectations of my kids, now I think my kids think that I expect more of them, because I am a bit of a freak sometimes. Like,
The discipline.
like when you add it all up, it's a little much. It's a little much. So maybe I don't expect that much of them, but they're like, wow, like it's kind of hard to compete with that. But
well, we're going to interview them after we're done with you.
Their perspective is going to be a lot different. Yeah.
And Sabeena, I wanted to ask about something you mentioned when you came into the industry 25 years ago. It was a little bit different industry, maybe not as much support. And it's definitely changed since then. We see that, we talk about that a lot. What do you think the future is like for the mortgage industry, for brokers, for agents, for people coming in, maybe with technology? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
I think that mortgage brokers are still going to be needed. Technology is there, but I don't think that consumers truly can embrace the technology in a way to understand what it means for them. So when you search for something that's a complicated product that you maybe don't understand, and everybody's like, you need this, they need to know why they need it. And they need to know, well, this is what I need. This is what my goals are. How do I fit that within? That's where brokers really are the relationship piece to help them to understand, people, for example, who take a variable rate, they're going to need that ongoing support of when do I lock in? Well, that's their choice, not our choice. But they need to have somebody to have that conversation with who understands them. And the person on a toll-free number isn't going to be able to give them that level of advice, and nor is a AI bot.
Yeah, the person or the person, right?
Yeah.
Who are you talking
to? Exactly. So I think that the relationship aspect of our business is still going to be needed. And I think that we're going to be put on our toes. I mean, technology is extremely important to the future of our business. And something that I think newer brokers are not in the habit of doing is picking up the phone. And that's something that they need to get the hang of. And you don't establish relationships with technology. You establish relationships with face-to-face, whether it be by Zoom or in person. In person is obviously better. And you establish relationships.
I know we've talked about this before, Joe, and something that we still hear more and more is it's almost like going back in time is the new thing. If you write a handwritten letter to someone, that now is so much more valuable than having, an AI bot that can talk to you. It's like, wow, this person took time to write a note, to maybe send it, with postage like that. It's now so new and interesting to do that again, right? That things like that might work, or even picking up the phone or visiting in person. So having that human element.
Did you hear that cassettes are coming back?
What?
Yeah, I
the kids
don't know what's going on there. I mean, I get vinyl, but cassettes, they were like the worst medium for music ever. But I saw that there's a few artists who've put out cassettes recently, and
that's cool.
I don't get it. The only thing I remember is the tape getting all messed up.
They want to own the music, right? They want to actually have something physical that they can bring it with us rather than just having it digital. But then you got to carry around the Walkman. And remember, I had those DVD players and you go in the car and it skip,
you're in the relationship business. You have relationships with your clients and help them navigate through these uncharted waters for them. And it's all about relationships, and you can't do that. You're right. You have to have that face-to-face interaction, right? That's what being human's all about.
Yeah, totally. It's everything.
Yeah, not
it really is. And it's what I love about my business. That's what I love. I don't like underwriting. Let's be clear. Underwriting is not my favorite. I'm a good underwriter because we were underwriting at Equity Plus. That was a big deal, right? So I know how to underwrite for sure, and how to structure a deal and look at various options and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's the relationships that drive me. It's those interactions that drive me. That's what makes me happy. When I ended the week on Friday, I had 2 people on Friday. One was removing subjects and one was something else. And they both said how happy they were to be dealing with me and how they really felt the value that I had provided through the mortgage process and everything like that. And instead of being like, oh, you're welcome, that kind of thing, I took the moment to just feel that and just feel it and be like, this is what it's about. This is where it's at, and just feel that love and feel grateful for it. And then I used that to bounce my week off this week.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think that's often missed, and we talk about this sometimes as well, but it is missed. The feeling that you get of helping others and that gratification. So I love that you said that. Is there anything else, Sabeena, that you think sets those that are successful apart from others in the industry?
I'd say mindset, discipline, who you spend most time with. One of the questions I think we talked that we had bounced around and before doing this was, when you're looking for a brokerage, what should you look for? Mm-hmm. It's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's about the values. So it's about, what are you getting? How are you getting it? Like, who are the people you're aligned with? Who are you surrounded by? All those things are really important. So successful people surround themselves by other successful people. So it may not be other successful mortgage brokers, but it might be successful people in your community, that kind of thing. Align yourself with the right people, with the right values. Know what your values are. Know what your purpose is. All those things are very important in your success. Because if you get up in the morning, you don't know why you're sitting at that desk, and you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, you won't be able to achieve if you're just trying to focus on a number. Because believe me, when you hit that number, if you even hit that number, you're still not arriving at success. You're just going to set the bar higher next year. You're just going to keep running that wheel, and you'll never really feel like you hit success greater than your business goals or your personal goals. What do you want to achieve in your life? What's important to you? Family, travel. What's your bucket list? Do it. Don't put it off. So while everybody was like, this is probably bad to say, but like when we all had a good 2021, right? So put some of that aside when it's super busy and save that for when it's slow to go do those things that you don't have the time to do instead of sitting at your desk and stressing about the fact that it's slow. Have some money to go do those things. Always have, you've got your building wealth, but you've also building health, but building life.
What is one thing that maybe is on your bucket list that you haven't gotten to yet that you still want to get to? Sure, there's a few, but one that you could share.
I don't know if I want to say this publicly.
choose a PG one.
Say the other thing, yeah.
Okay, I want to do a safari in Africa, and then there's this one resort. JW has a new resort in Africa that I've seen, and they have like an amazing safari experience. And then to pop down from there down to the Maldives for a few days.
Yeah, Joe just wants to know the other thing now.
that was the other thing is I've been through the raising my kids, single parenting, that kind of thing. And in a week, I'm going to have an empty nest. Now it's trying to figure out who I am without the identity of being, mom, having the daily demands of being a parent on me, and figuring out who I am, building new relationships, and dating. Putting myself out there, that kind of thing. So yeah, that
is exciting.
Yeah, stepping into that place of discomfort in order to find comfort in it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about doing like a tour, like a group tour on maybe to Africa, Maldives? I did that for the first time a couple of years ago to the Galapagos, and it was that was on my bucket list to go there, and it was a Canadian company that does these tours where they get about 20 people or thereabouts, and it was just an amazing experience, like 10, 11 days. Anyways, just floating that out there.
Great idea. Actually, a friend of mine did that, went to Greece sailing for 7 days and said it was amazing. I think I might have to do that. Yeah.
Because you know what? You end up finding a lot of like-minded individuals, right? Who are out there for the reason they like to travel. And oh my God, I thought that I'd gotten around, but like some of these people were telling me that they've been to like 60 countries, and I'm thinking, wow, I am the definition of a couch potato in that case. I don't get anywhere. But it's an amazing experience.
That sounds amazing. Okay, I'm going to try that. That's going to be my 2025 thing. And I'm going to do a 10-day Dr. Joe Dispenza meditation retreat in Cancun. So that's my big thing for this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm an advanced student, so it's like basically he does a lot of teaching and a lot of meditating, and it's just unbelievable. It's life-changing.
So you have to come back, like you mentioned, on another podcast, and we can talk more about that.
Give me a little more time, and we'll have that. I would love that.
All right. Well, Sabeena, this has been an amazing, little over an hour. It's been an amazing time with you. Time absolutely does fly. And like I said earlier, it's easy to see why you're so successful. And I really appreciate, as does Kane, you taking the time out of your schedule to spend with us and talk to people about your amazing career. So thank you
so much. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the $1 Billion Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode.
For more in-depth entrepreneurial insights, follow us on social media. And for more info on the show, go to billiondollarpodcast.com.
See you next time.